the selected slabs into this machine, the vacuum kiln. It's basically a big oven that heats the wood and sucks out the moisture. This is crucial because too much moisture will make the wood warp and ruin the guitar before they even start building it.
Once they close it and let it sit for 7 to 8 days, they'll pull more than 55 gallons of water out of this stack of wood.
Now, workers are ready to cut and shape the two main pieces that make up a guitar. The body, which consists of both the top and a bottom, and the neck, which houses the fretboard and frets. Workers start by slicing a slab of maple wood down the middle. This slab will become the guitar's top. Then they coat the edges and glue the two halves side by side, so that the natural grain on the left side of the top mirrors the grain on the right side. Not only does this technique make the guitar look symmetrical, the symmetry of the grain ensures that if the wood warps from humidity, the warping will distribute evenly along the grain lines. Once the glue sets, a worker feeds the guitar top through this roller, which applies glue to one side. Then pairs it up with the mahogany bottom. The blocks spend 12 hours under this hydraulic press so the glue fully sets. And then, it's time to make this block of wood look like a guitar. A worker cuts out the rough shape of the guitar. But it takes a finely tuned machine to finish the job. This computer-controlled carving machine, called a CNC router, is accurate to within 3/1000th of an inch. It can also carve up to 24 guitar bodies at one time.
Cu arici, da, așa, da. E bun dacă e cu arici. Ha? E elastic. Și aia e bun. Și aia e bun.
After machines carve up the guitar bodies,
bine, Cristi. Dar de poze, nu mi-ai trimis tu poze, Maria.
I'm in front of a slack belt sander. An operator uses this machine to smooth and shape the front of a guitar.
Mai auzit?
If you look at it, you can see there's actually a dish shape here. That makes it incredibly comfortable when you're playing it the guitar because your hand is moving over very smooth.
Dar nu ți-am văzut numele, de-aia.
The operator is using touch, feel, and experience to give each
Bine,
guitar a
mersi.
unique
Hai că
shape.
mă uit după
with
ce
so much
termină.
sawing and
Bine,
sanding going on, where does all the sawdust go?
You might guess that if you have a 30,000 square foot windmill, you'd produce a lot of sawdust, and you'd be right. 5 to 6 tons of sawdust every day. They handle it with this giant vacuum system. There's ports at each workstation that suck up the sawdust, bring it to central ducts in the ceiling, powered by this giant 160 horsepower fan. It goes into this filtration system to separate the sawdust from the air, and then into this massive 45-foot silo. For the silo, it goes into these 15-ton trucks and shipped out twice a week.
Now that the guitar's body has taken shape, workers on the other side of the factory can construct the guitar's neck. They start by cutting out the rough shape of the neck from a solid piece of mahogany. Then this machine cuts a groove down the length of the neck. This groove and what fits inside is something Gibson invented to solve a problem that plagued guitar players for centuries: humidity.
Humidity changes wood, and that can have a big effect on playability. For example, the neck of the guitar could warp depending on the humidity. So to solve this problem, Gibson invented in 1921 the steel truss rod. It fits down inside the neck and it's adjustable so that the user can either tighten it or loosen it and keep the neck perfectly straight no matter what environment the guitar is in.
Once workers insert the truss rod, it's time to glue on the fretboard. This is a piece of rosewood that fingers can easily move across. It also holds the fret wires. Fret wires are 2.3 millimeter metal strips that a worker lays in at precise locations along the length of the fretboard. These wires are actually guides that tell the guitar player where to press down on the strings to play different notes. Finally, with the frets in place, the neck is complete and ready to be married with the guitar's body. First, a worker applies glue to a hole in the body and fits the neck snugly in place. After hanging around to dry for 30 minutes, it's time for a makeover. Over the course of 3 days, each guitar gets multiple layers of sealant, paint, and lacquer. A worker paints on the signature Gibson flourishes by hand. This way, each guitar that leaves the factory is slightly different from the next. Then, automated sprayers apply a lacquer finish. It's finally starting to look like a Les Paul guitar. But before it's ready to rock, it's going to need a little more power. And later, it may look like Play-Doh, but find out why this stuff holds the key to shaving strokes off your game. On the Gibson guitar factory floor, workers have sawed and sanded wood into the iconic shape of the Les Paul guitar. But here in the electronics department, it's time to get amped.
Think about an acoustic guitar. When you pluck a string, it causes the entire front of the guitar to vibrate, and we hear those vibrations. But what if you want to amplify that sound so that it could fill an entire stadium, for example? You'd use this, a pickup.
Each pickup consists of a solid magnet with a coil of wire wrapped around it over 1,000 times. When someone plucks a string, its vibrations cause a change in the magnetic field, which produces an electric current. This current runs through the coil and into a wire that's plugged into the guitar. When the current is amplified and sent to a speaker, we have the sound of rock and roll. Workers install the pickups on the guitar's body so that the strings will pass directly over them. Once they mount the pickups, they then install the control knobs. These allow the guitar player to interact with the electric current as it exits the guitar. One knob controls the signal's volume, and the other the tone. Now that the guitar is wired up for electricity, workers can add the strings. First, they screw in the bridge. This is what holds the strings in place on the guitar's body. These strings are made of steel. That's because steel can create vibrations that will register in the pickup's magnetic field. Finally, with the strings in place, the Les Paul electric guitar is complete.
So what does it sound like at this point?
Well, right now it's pretty quiet.
Really quiet.
Yeah, pretty quiet. So let's plug it in.
Now you can hear it, but it's a very natural, kind of acoustic-y sound coming out of an electric guitar.
Well, what they did is took their normal amplifier and just cranked it all the way up. Which created a distortion, kind of like this.
That's where that sound comes from.
That's it.
So electric guitars were invented to make guitars sound louder. But when people cranked up their amps, the distorted sound became the hallmark of rock and roll. Now that's making the most of an industrial accident.
take a genius to swing a club at a golf ball, but to engineer a golf ball to fly exactly the way you want it to fly, that's a different story.
For centuries, golfers have been pursuing the perfect golf ball. A ball that hits longer, flies straighter, or spins faster. A ball that's softer, or a ball that's harder. Any ball that promises to improve their game. And that's why, believe it or not, there are nearly 2,000 different types of golf balls available today. Creating a golf ball to suit the game of every type of golfer may sound like a tall order,